Hello, sweet friends. Today we are doing something really fun, and this bag is very popular, so you will have seen it before, but now it's your turn to make it. We are sewing up the Easy Does It bag from ByAnnie.com. This bag is such a treasure, and you are gonna feel like a sewing champion when you finish yours. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. All of these products that I'm sewing today come in the Sewing Parts Online Ambassador box for the Easy Does It bag. And this is actually my box. We all have different boxes on their website. And I love this so much that I wanted to curate a box for you guys where everything is all inclusive in the box. So let me show you what's in the box first, so you know that you don't need to buy anything to make this project. You're gonna get these 3 fabrics, which I think are so pretty. They've got little birds, and you can choose to use these however you want. Whichever one of these that you like the best can be the exterior of your bag. It really doesn't matter. So you get these 3 fun fat quarters from Art Gallery. You'll get the full pattern, which is obviously very helpful. You're gonna get a zipper, a 24-inch zipper for the bag, and it's from ByAnnie. It's a very good quality zipper. There's a whole spool of matching pink thread in the box, your interfacing that you'll need, as well as your soft and stable, which is going to give the bag that squish factor. This is fabulous and super great to learn how to sew with. And the Easy Does It bag is the perfect opportunity to practice using this type of foam because it's a smaller project. So highly recommend that you give this a try, even if you've never sewn with foam before. And last but not least, you get 2 other fun things. You're gonna get an entire pack of assorted needles from Oregon, and you're going to get my very favorite stork scissors. If any of you know me at all, you know that these are my very favorite snips to keep on hand. I think they are so cute, and I don't wanna cut with something if it's not fancy and cute, and these certainly are. So that's the box contents. I will link that in the description below if you wanna make yours just like mine. It makes it really easy for you. You can also just go on her website and buy the pattern and do it all yourself if you want to. No shame in that game. So let's get started on this wonderful project. It's gonna be so much fun.
It's going to be fun!
Fun! The first thing I always recommend with this type of project is to just read over your directions in their entirety. I know that's boring and no fun, but you will save yourself some headaches because this bag is constructed just a little bit differently than what you're probably used to. You're probably used to just jumping into your first directives of cutting your fabric. And while number 1 says to cut your fabrics, it also says to quilt your fabric. And so that is step 1, is not to cut our pieces out yet, but to make one very large piece of quilted fabric that we will then cut our pieces out of. So don't cut them down into these smaller sizes that are listed down here. You're going to quilt it first. So to do that, we need to bring our fabrics down to the same size. So you need to decide right now what your front fabric, your exterior fabric will be, and what your interior fabric are going to be. And we're going to take our soft and stable and cut a piece down to the size of one of your fat quarters, which should be 18 by 21. Now I've decided for today that I want this to be my exterior fabric. I think it is just really pretty, and I think it's going to make such a beautiful bag. The piece that you're getting is 18 by 58, so you can just put your fat quarter like on top of at the end here and cut it. This little, you know, 1/4 inch or whatever isn't going to make that big of a difference. So cut your soft and stable down, hold on to this extra, put it aside for now, and you now have a piece of soft and stable the correct size of your fat quarter. Lovely. Now, one thing I love about soft and stable is it's got like a nap to it, which grabs onto your fabric. Do you see how my fabric's not moving across this foam? That is awesome because then you don't really need to use any sort of like adhesive. So you wouldn't need a spray adhesive or anything to hold this in place. You can use it if you want, but I can even pick this up and it's not going anywhere. So I'm going to flip this over. And for the back side, you're going to put on whatever your interior fabric is going to be. So for me, I'm choosing this beautiful pink fabric. I think it is so pretty. And then I'm going to save this green one for our accents. So it'll be our handles and our binding inside. And so just put that aside for now. Okay, now it's time to quilt this little sandwich together. And I say quilt very loosely because we are just going to sew some lines. And if you want to make it super fancy, you are more than welcome to. That's perfectly fine. But for today, I think I am going to do I want to do diagonal cross-hatched lines? Sure. Okay. This might take a little longer, but it will be really pretty. So I'm going to take a piece of tape, and I keep painter's tape in my sewing room. This is a really quick and easy way to mark lines over and over and over again. This tape is, I think, 1 inch wide. I think I'm just going to do one set of diagonal lines. We'll see. So I'm putting this across to where I can see my corner here. So we'll go corner to corner for this first stitch, and let's go over to the machine and I'll show you how to do this. Okay, before we jump into sewing, I have to show you something that I've been loving lately. This dress is from Quince. And if you've never checked them out before, they are becoming my one-stop shop for all things clothing. I am obsessed with dresses and just cute, airy, breezy, comfy things. And this company is exactly perfect for that. They are perfect for beautiful wardrobe basics. What impressed me most about Quince honestly wasn't the price, it's the quality of the clothing that you get. Everything I've received from them is incredibly well made. And as a seamstress, I am very picky about the clothing that I buy versus what I make. There are darts where darts are supposed to be. The fits and the sizes are extremely true to your regular size, which is nice because it's always hard to know that when you're buying online. The fabrics are soft, they're sustainable, and honestly, they look a lot more expensive than they actually are. This is my first favorite outfit. Y'all know I love a good dress with a tied up collared shirt. Makes you look like you gave it a try for the day. And I personally think I look pretty fancy in this. Quince works directly with top tier manufacturers so they can offer premium pieces without all of the markups that you would normally see. Isn't this red dress just like the best? This was my 4th of July outfit. They focus on timeless essentials made with just quality materials instead of all those fast fashion pieces that fall apart after 5 minutes. That's not going to happen with a Quince outfit. Is this not the cutest thing ever? Also, everything is super transitional. So this is perfect for summer, for the cookout we went to for the 4th. Well, let's be honest, fall is not far off the horizon. So you might need something a little bit warmer for those days. No problem. Their clothes transition perfectly from season to season. So when it does get a little cooler out and you need something just a bit warmer, but you still want to wear your cute red dress, you certainly can. Look at that. Just by ordering these 5 pieces of clothing, I have several outfit options that will take me from summer to fall and beyond. Everything I bought can be mixed together, which I absolutely love. They make getting dressed in the morning super easy. They fit my lifestyle perfectly because it's casual, it's comfortable, but it's fancy enough to make you look like you tried and that you gave it some effort. If you'd like to upgrade your wardrobe or even your home, Quince also carries everything from beautiful bedding to leather bags to home goods and jewelry too. Use my link in the description or this QR code to shop Quince. They offer free shipping and 365-day returns, so it's really easy to give them a try. Okay, time to get back to making the bag. I've got my pink thread loaded in the bob and Ann at the top. I am using that 9014 needle, which was in the Organ assorted needle pack. That's going to be perfect for this project. We will have some thicker seams later in the project, so we're going to use the 9014 and just make sure we have enough oomph to get through this. I'm just going to use my regular zigzag foot. You could switch to a walking foot if you want, but it's not completely 100% necessary for this project. So I'm going to line my fabric up right at the corner. I'm going to up my stitch length to a 4, and I am just going to sew along this tape line, just to the right of or left of it. Make sure everything is nice and flat under your hands. Just working our way from corner to corner. Now, just in case you don't feel like that is secure enough, and it's fine if it's not, you can add some spray adhesive if you like. I get this from Walmart, and all you're going to do is spray it and smooth it out with your hand, and that'll help keep that more in place. The nap on the foam should work pretty well, but if you're new to sewing, that might stress you out if it's all willy-nilly. We don't want that. I try and keep the sewing room as low stress as possible. So any tools we can use to help us along the way, we should use them. Okay, so that's good and stuck now. Flip her over. Gorgeous. Now it's really stuck. Okay. So take your tape or whatever you want to use for your measurement, move it over, line it up with your previous line. And there's a million ways to mark these. You could mark it with a chalk marker. You could mark it with a Hera marker. I'm just trying to show you different options because painter's tape might be something that you have laying around and it might be helpful to you today. Okay, we're going to load this back under. I'm going to stitch on the diagonal again. Pull it up, move it over. We're just going to keep doing this down this side, and then I'm going to turn this over and do it down the other side. So go ahead and however you want to quilt your two pieces all together, do that, and then I'll meet you back here and we'll cut them out of this long, beautiful quilted piece. All right, we've got it all quilted. Look at all those pretty lines. I think that's going to be perfect. So the next thing I'm going to do is trim this down to have some nice even edges. I'm not trying to trim off a bunch of fabric because we're going to need that, but it's also a lot easier to cut accurate pieces if you can see where your edges are. So we're going to do there because we have no foam here. That's good. And get off the selvage here. Last side. Great. Now we have a nice space to cut from. And actually it looks like I missed a little bit of that selvage. So I'm going to go back over it and just get rid of that. There we go. Now we're going to cut some pieces out of this rectangle. The first thing I'm going to cut out are my front and back panels. And that needs to be 6.5 inches tall and 9.5 inches wide. So I'm just going to cut up 6.5 inches and go that way. So we're going to measure 6.5 inches up. I'm going to cut right here. Now, you may want to fussy cut this if you have some cool stuff on the front of your fabric. But what I would make sure is if you do that, your panels are going to be like this. So you want your, like in this case, you want the birds facing the correct direction. So if you do it this way, then your birds will be facing the right way. And then we need to cut 2 9.5 inch strips. So let's see. If we go 9.5, that puts us right here. Do I want to fussy cut any of this? I've got a bird here. I've got a beautiful bird right in the middle there. So I think we'll be okay. So I'm going to do double check before I cut 9.5 over. Always measure twice and cut once. Okay, so this is going to be one of my pieces of my front, and then 6.5 by 9.5 again. So we've got 9.5, and this is fine because there's not really a whole lot going on that piece. So that works out great. Lovely. Okay, we've got our front and back pieces. Now we need to cut our side strip and our 2 zipper strips. So I'm going to cut the side strip first. Kind of like these birds though. I'm not going to try and get too fussy with the cutting. We're going to measure over 4 3/4 inches for our side strip. 4 3/4. And this needs to be 18 inches long. So depending on the size of your fat quarter, you could cut it the opposite direction if that works better for your fabric. If you're worried about all that, the best thing you could do is to just get a non-directional print, and then you won't have to mess with it at all. So I'm going to trim this one down to 18. So there's 18. Come over here. All right. We've got our side strip now. And now we need to cut our zipper strips, which are 2 1/4 by 13 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut this up 13 inches. And then we'll measure over 2 1/4. 1, 2, double checking my measurements. There's 1 and 2 1/4. Lovely. Okay, put these pieces aside. So now we've got all of our main and interior fabrics cut. That is great. Good job. Next direction is we want to round all 4 corners on the bag. So you're going to want to find like a 2.5 inch circular object. This bottle is 2.5 inches at the bottom, and that will work fine. So on the bag, front and back, all we're going to do, and the easiest way to do this, I think, would be using a marking pen. Let's see if I've got one here. And you'll probably see it best from this side. So what you're going to do is put this in the corner here and see this little strip. That's what we're getting rid of. So just draw a line to show where you need to cut. That's so easy. See, guys, this project isn't that hard yet. I'm just kidding. It's not going to be hard. The other thing I like about these bags is it's always good to have a couple bag patterns if you're a gift giver like me. It's always nice to have a few that you've done a few times that you know you could go back to and complete in a few hours. If you come down to the wire for a gift for somebody and you need to make or want to make them something special, having practice on these types of patterns is great because you already know how to do it then. Or you can come back to this video and refer to it, and you can make a really nice handmade gift in no time because you've been practicing. So we're just going to cut that rounded edge, make them look really nice. And you're only doing this on the front and back panel pieces. Look how professional that looks. You are such a grown-up. Look at you go. Oh, fab. Okay, now we are going to stitch around each quilted piece about 1/8 of an inch from the edge so that it seals all of our edges and secures everything. And we're doing that on all of these pieces just to make sure everything is stuck. So we're going to lay this in at 1/8 of an inch away. And you can use that long length stitch still. It doesn't need to be a super tight stitch. And we're just going to go around. When you get to those curves, slow down and just ease your fabric. My eye is following, not my needle. My eye is watching where my piece of fabric is lining up with my 1/8 inch mark on my presser foot. Your zigzag foot, or whatever your regular foot is that comes with your sewing machine, the one that came on it when you bought it, is going to have those markings on it almost always. And you'll learn those markings as you get to know your machine. So you will start knowing automatically where 1/8 of an inch is, 1/4 of an inch. You'll also learn your 1/2 inch and even your 3/8 inch. Those will all become very common and just, you won't even have to think about it after a while. Okay, once you reach your beginning of your stitches, just cut your thread. And this is what it should look like. See that stitching around the edge there? That's what we want to do on all of our pieces. So do that, and then I'll show you the next step. These look so good. Now that you've got all of those pieces prepared, set them aside. We are moving on to step 2. And guess what? There's only 3 steps in this project, so you're like doing great, okay? It's time to make some bias binding, but don't freak out. This is not as scary as it sounds. The first thing we want to do is fold our fabric in half, and we want to create a 14 by 14 inch square. And I am going to cut along the selvage because I know the selvage is a nice even space. So I'm going to just go ahead and cut right along this selvage line like so. And I'm going to measure over 14 inches. So we've got 14 right there. We're going to cut that. So we know that we've got 14 going this way. Now we need 14 going this way. If you need to square up your edge, that's fine. I need to square mine up. It's a little bit crooked, and we don't want that because we really need a true diagonal to make this work. So square it up, measure over 14 inches. There it is. I love this green color. Oh, it's so pretty. Okay, put this aside. We're going to use that for the handles in a few minutes. Now, with this piece, I want you to cut it diagonally. Now, my ruler is not long enough to do that, but if I fold it up like this and match my corners, it will be. So we'll do that. Cut corner to corner here. And this is what you'll have. 2 big triangles. What I want you to do is turn this one so that it's got the top right here, and take your other triangle. You're going to lay it like this, right on top. And you want these little points to stick out 1/4 of an inch. I don't know if you can see that, but it has to stick out 1/4 of an inch. That's vital to this process, okay? Grab some clips, and we're going to clip right here because we're going to sew that spot. Clip it in place. Lovely. And now we're going to sew right here. So make sure your right sides are touching and bring it over to your machine. We're going to sew this at 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going to put my stitch length back down to a 2.5. This is a utility stitch and we need it to hang in there for us. Okay, so start sewing at that 1/4 inch mark. You're connecting your two pieces back together, but in a different direction. Wonderful. Should now look like a parallelogram, the state of Tennessee. I don't know, whatever. Bring it back over here. Okay, we need to press this out, especially this seam. We want to press it open. So I'm going to take my, you can't really see this very well against my ironing board cover, I guess, but I'm going to go ahead and finger press this open just to get it mocked up and then press it out. And then go ahead, if you have some wrinkles in your other piece, like your sides here, go ahead and press those as well. Using my new Laura Star steam iron, and this thing is fab. It does such a good job. Oh, I just love it. Okay, nice and flat. Now let's go cut this into some strips. Ooh, I just want to keep pressing stuff. Okay, come on. Make sure your seam is going across like diagonally, and then turn this so it's facing vertically. And what we're going to do is start at the bottom edge here. Line it up on your cutting mat, and we're going to measure over 2 1/4 inches. So we've got 1, 2 1/4. So your stretch should be going this way. That's what we need. And I say stretch loosely. This is not a stretchy fabric, but the bias of your fabric is the stretchiest part of a woven fabric. And it will help you go around tight corners like we will in this bag shortly. But don't be scared. 2 1/4. We're going to cut as many strips as we can get out of this piece at 2 1/4 inches. There's another one. All right, 2 1/4. So you should get 4 strips. Here's our last one. And you can get rid of this little piece. We don't need that. Take your 4 strips now, and we're going to attach those at the sewing machine. The way you're going to do this is by taking your corners here, and you're going to line them up. This is pretty side up, and this is pretty side down. And remember that 1/4 inch overhang that we had before? We're going to do that again. We're going to make sure these little tails are sticking out at 1/4 of an inch, and then we're going to sew with 1/4 inch seam allowance. That's what's going to give us a nice, long, even strip. Look at you making bias binding. You're amazing. See that? That's perfect. Now, if your pieces do not line up correctly, it's because you forgot to leave that 1/4 inch tail. So take that stitch out, go back through and put the 1/4 inch tail in this time, and you'll have much better success. Okay, so I'm going to do this again. 1/4 inch tails hanging off. Okay, attach that last one, and then you'll have a nice long strip of bias binding, and I'll show you what we're going to do next to make this ready to sew onto our bag at the end of the project. Okay, now that we've got this sewn together, we're going to trim just these little tiny tails hanging out here. So just go through, you can do this with your scissors just to make it nice and even. Just trim those off. And then I want you to press this flat just to make sure it's all even. Press the seams open, get it nice and uniform for our final step when we add the binding. Okay, I'm going to go press this and I'll meet you back here for the next part. All right, we've pressed out all of these seams now, and the last thing we're going to do with this binding before we set it aside is we're going to fold it in half with the wrong sides touching, and we're just going to press it right down the line. So this is how you would make bias quilt binding as well. I mean, this is the same process. So this is another wonderful skill building thing that you're learning today. This tutorial, this pattern in general is teaching you so many great skills. I just can't say, and it's great because it's on a small scale. So you're not, putting hours and hours and hours and days into a quilt and then potentially messing it all up. You're getting some really good building blocks here on a small project, which I love. For my beginner friends, this is a great skill builder. Are you going to have to push yourself a little bit and maybe be outside your comfort zone for a few of these steps? Definitely. But that's how we grow, right? And it's okay if it doesn't turn out perfectly. One thing I like about this pattern is even if you do, get some like lumps or bumps in your bag along the way, or not everything matches up exactly right, it still tends to look really good regardless. Sorry, my iron is singing to me. Yes, I hear you. All right, so get this nice and flattened out, and this will be put away for the later step when we attach it to our bag. We have to make some handles now. Now we have this larger piece, but you might immediately look to this, but you actually, from that smaller piece, when you made your 14 by 14 inch square, you probably have the right size. It needs to be 4 inches, which this one is exactly, by 5 3/4 inches. So we're gonna do, just measure over 5 3/4 right here. I try and use up the smallest pieces of fabric that I can when doing the project, because then I have those nice larger pieces left over that I can use for other things, which that's more useful to me than tiny little scraps. We like to be resourceful. Okay, here's our 2 4 by 5 3/4. Put that extra fabric aside. Now in your box, if you got it from Sewing Parts Online, it will come with SF101, which is called Shape Flex. And this is going to give you some structure to your handles, which is fabulous. So what we're going to do is cut 2 pieces of SF101 the size of our handles here. And then we'll go over to the ironing board and we're going to attach this. There's 1 and 2. Not even going to take you with me. Just take this over to your ironing board and press it so that the bumpy side is touching the wrong side of your fabric. So just like this. And that's what'll fuse. These are glue dots and they're going to fuse to the fabric when heat is added. Okay, so go do that and I'll meet you back here in a second. Okay, so we've got those attached now. And we are going to fold this in half, just like this, and we're going to mark that center point. We're going to press it so that it creases the center. Do that with the other one too. Now, take your edges and fold them in towards the middle, just like that, and press that crease. And then do that again on here. Okay, so what that's going to do then is give you 3 lines in your handle, fold in and then fold in again, and make sure those are nice and even, and we're going to top stitch this, and that'll be your handle. So repeat that on this one, and then I'll show you how to top stitch it. Let's tackle the zipper, shall we? So we're going to take our 2 pieces that are, I think they're 13 inches, I've lost track. Yeah, 13 inches long, and grab your zipper. And we are going to lay this on top of, just put one aside for now. We're going to lay this on top with our pretty sides touching. And you're going to want to let this extend out a little bit past your edge on each end. So if you want to cut your zipper down right now, you can. Let's say down to 15 inches. That would be fine. I'm actually going to cut these little tabs just so they don't count into my measurement right now. So if you have those little tabs, don't cut through this metal piece, but just cut those tabs off and measure this down to 15 inches. It'll be a little easier to manage. Okay. And we're going to lay this. Well, first of all, we're going to put our zipper foot on. Let's find our zipper foot. This is your zipper foot. Okay. Load your zipper foot on the left bar, left side of the bars here. Center your needle so it goes right in this divot. And we're going to center our zipper on top of our piece. But here's the trick. I need you to listen at this part, okay? let the zipper stick out from the top about 1/8 of an inch. This is one of my favorite zipper hacks to ever exist, because here's the deal. The point of sewing is to cover up all your raw edges. But without doing this step, you are going to have a raw edge here, and we don't want that. So what we're going to do is let that stick out 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to line the edge of my zipper foot up with the edge of that zipper tape that's sticking out 1/4. I keep saying a quarter, 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so start with a back stitch and just start sewing along. Hold it down with your fingers and try and maintain that 1/8 of an inch sticking out the top there. Okay, when you get to the end there, back stitch, cut your thread. This is what it should look like. Okay. Now here is the super tricky part. We are going to go back here and fold this down. And do you see how it covers up all this yucky foam? That's the magic of leaving that 1/8 of an inch sticking out from the edge, you guys. Isn't that fabulous?
Isn't that fabulous?
Okay, now I'm just going to sew this on with my zipper foot. You can switch feet if that makes you feel better. I'm going to sew right up to the edge of that zipper tape from the back side, as close as I can get without missing it. Just keep folding this over. And that is going to conceal your raw edge. And I just think that is the best. What a great little hack. Back stitch at the end. Okay. Now, lay this face up right here and grab your other piece. And I want you to center it over your first piece. Okay, we're not centering it on the zipper. We're centering it over the piece we just sewed on. Pretty side's touching. Pretty side of your zipper is touching pretty side of your zipper panel. You're going to leave that one. My clip just broke. You're going to leave that 1/8 of an inch sticking out from the top. You sewing wizard. I am so proud of you. We're doing this, y'all. We're doing zippers, okay? That's what it should look like. And we're going to sew right along there with a 1/4 inch seam, which is right against the edge of your zipper foot. Get that zipper pull out of the way there. And off we go. Off to the races. Back stitch, cut, open it up, and turn this up so that it covers this raw edge of the foam, okay? Just like we did before. Flatten it down, and I'm going to sew from the back side. You can sew from the front side if you feel adventurous, but I like being able to see right up to that edge. And I'm just going to back stitch and sew right along the edge of that zipper tape, locking everything down. Oh my goodness. If you are hanging in there with me, honey, you keep doing this. You're doing so good. Sewing should be fun, you guys. So don't let this stress you out. If it is stressing you out, walk away from it for a little bit. That's totally fine. Go get a drink, go sit on the porch for a minute. My sister always tells me you need to go ground yourself. And that means you need to take your shoes off and go stand on the earth, on the grass, and remember that you are just part of the earth and everything is fine. And nature is around you chirping and buzzing and whatever. And it really does help me sort of just refocus on just breathing. If I get really, now that's more of like if I'm having a life crisis, but sewing might be a life crisis for you. Who knows? Okay. This is what it should look like. This is what you got. Make sure that zipper is moving and grooving. We've got it. Okay. Let's move on to the next step. You're doing so good. Forgot one little step. Take your zipper and slide it down so that it's within this part here. And we are going to lay this under and sew. We need to switch back to our regular zigzag foot here. We're going to sew some stitches here to block the ends so that our zipper pull does not come off. So just lay this flat. And I kind of just like to follow my stitches that I did back in way back in the beginning when we just stitched around the perimeter. Those are where I sew my stitches. And I'm going to sew a couple. So I'm going to go back, and I'm going to go forward, and maybe reverse one more time, just to really lock them in. Okay, this should look like this, just this little section here. This side should be much easier because they're already attached down here. So forward, backward, forwards, backward. And now you can trim this excess off the end. Okay. Now this whole shebang right here is now called your zipper strip. Take this longer side panel piece that we cut earlier, and I want you to line your short ends up together, just like so, just like this, and we're gonna sew those with a 1/4 inch seam. So lay it under your presser foot, and at 1/4 of an inch, we're gonna stitch right across and attach those to make a circle. And then got that, do that on the other end. When I sewed this bag together for the first time, I was so proud of myself. It looks so professional when it's done. So keep up the good work. You're doing great. This is what you should have. It's kind of like a giant smile. Hello, you're doing a really good job on your bag. All right, we still have some of that green coordinating fabric left over. We need to cut 2 more things. We're going to cut our side strip bindings now from this, and those need to be 2 inches by 4 3/4 inches. So I'm going to cut this 2 inches and another 2 inches. Set that aside, and then we're going to cut these down to 4 3/4 inches. I'm just going to stack them, kind of just center it. That way we get nice clean edges. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 3/4 inches. Okay, grab your smiley face piece. We're going to take this little piece and fold it in half lengthwise so the wrong sides are touching. And we're going to put some clips here. So it should now be 1 by 4 3/4. We're going to go to the zipper side of the seams we just sewed. We're going to align the raw edge of this binding with the raw edge right here and just add it into your clips like so. Okay, so it should look like that. And we're going to do something kind of weird. So come over here and let me show you. The first line that we're going to sew is at 3/8 of an inch from the raw edge. So find that. If you need to get your ruler out to figure out where that is, because it's not as common of a measurement. 2, 3. So for me, that's with this like dot right here. So I'm going to line it up with the dot and sew across. Make sure all those raw edges are even. Okay, now we have a lot of bulk right here with this foam. It's very thick. So we're also going to sew another 2 lines. We're going to sew one at 1/4 of an inch away from this raw edge, just like that. And then we're going to sew another one at 1/8 of an inch from the raw edge. And what this is doing is flattening out all that messy foam. So that'll make this next step a lot easier for you. I love this pattern. She thought of everything. She makes it as beginner friendly as could possibly be. Okay, so this is what it should look like, those 3 lines there. Okay, now we're not doing a traditional quilt binding because you'll see, like if you tried to fold this over, that wouldn't work. And that's not what we're trying to do. We're actually just going to flatten this out so that it just covers all that mess. Isn't that great? And we're just going to stitch right here to enclose all that craziness under that little piece of fabric. Who knew he was going to work so hard today? This little strip of binding is the real hero of the project. So flatten it all out. It's going to be a little awkward because you've got all this mess, but just go a little bit at a time. Make sure you're sewing as close to the folded edge as you can get without missing. I'm just going to bring that up and flatten it. lift. I don't think I'm even on the thing. See, even we all have trouble with this, even if I've made this bag a bunch of times, but just sometimes need to stop and realign, and that's okay. Back stitch. Okay, so we should have this folded edge here and then a beautiful line of stitching, and it encloses everything. I want you to do that exact same process on the other side, just like we just did. And then I'll meet you back here and we will sew this bag together, I think. Well, I think we have to attach the hand. I don't know. I'll meet you back here. Okay, bye. We don't have a whole lot of pieces left. We've just got the front and back and then these little handles. Let's work on the handles. So what you'll see here is you've got this folded over edge and then this line of stitching where we attached this to the back. We're going to use this as sort of a guideline for the handles. And the way that this is going to work is you're going to line this up with that line of stitching, but we're not going to sew it flat. We're going to let one end push in right along this raw edge and we're going to baste it in place so it is lined up with your sewn edge that went across just in the last step. Baste it there. And instead of just sewing right here, we want the handle to stick out a little bit. So we're going to push this so that it is lined up with this raw edge, which gives you a little bit of a space on the handle. And that's very important so that you can get your hand in there to carry the bag. So again, line it up with your last line of stitching from the previous step. And then this is what it should look like. It should stick up a little bit. Repeat that on the other side. I feel like the construction of this bag has a bunch of those aha moments where you're like, well, that makes sense. When I sewed this the first time, I remember just being kind of in awe of like, oh, I get it now. It was a little confusing if you do it like without a video, but that's why I'm making this for y'all so that you don't have to feel confused. You have somebody sort of walking you through the steps and clearing up where I would have had questions when I was sewing this the first time. Okay, so now your handles are attached. What we want to do is just give them a little bit of a fold here for now. And we're going to grab a pin and just pin it through for this next step so that it stays out of the way. So just fold it a little bit and pin it right in the center so that it doesn't cause you any grief in this next step. Just like that. Okay. This part of the pattern always cracks me up because like we just did all of this and we haven't actually assembled the bag yet. And now we're in this little tiny section and it's the most important part, but it takes the least amount of steps. We're ready to pull this bag together. We want to find the centers of the top, bottom, and sides of this zipper strip. So if you have some clips, go ahead and just get a bunch out because you're going to need them for what we're about to do. Yes, I know everyone. It's been months since I said I was going to get a specific holder for my clips. And I have yet to do so. I want to make one. I'm so stubborn. Like, well, if I can't make it, I don't want it. All right, so get some clips. And to find the center, we're first going to line up these little handle pieces and fold it, okay? So there's the top center. Hold it down, and then there's your bottom center. And when you open it up, match those clips. And you should be like right where your handle is, right in the middle of that. Okay, so there we go with that. And we're going to do the same thing on the bag, front and back. So fold it in half and mark your top. You might want to use pins for this if you don't want your fabrics to shift. We'll see how it goes with clips. I may switch to pins. We'll see. And mark that. Okay, so we've got those 4 pieces marked. And don't skip this step, you guys. This is the part that makes this not quite as painful to attach. It's not confusing to do this. It's just you have to go slow. And that's really it. Oh, the other tool that might be helpful to you on this step is called an awl. And it looks like this. It's also known as a stiletto. So if you have one of these, I would get it out, or if you're going to be making this in the future, I would maybe order one. You can get them really cheap on Amazon. All right, we're going to turn this inside out. And what we're going to do is match our clips now. So make sure you're looking at the top of your bag. I want my bird facing the right direction, which means I need my bird to be facing up. And I'm going to match those clips together. We're going to work our way around and match our clips and replace them with one clip. Keep going. You're doing great. Don't be scared.
You're doing great.
Okay? So this is what it should look like. See where we're going with this? Now, you can add extra clips if you want to. You don't have to, but you can. You want to hit those corners and make sure that those are in the right spot? Sure. Now, we're going to lay this in our machine with this piece facing down onto the bed of our machine. And we're going to sew right along here with this facing down. Okay, let me show you how to do it. All right, lay this part down on your machine bed. I like to start on a long edge where there's a straightaway. Okay, we're going to sew this at 1/4 of an inch. Start with a back stitch and just start stitching. Hold everything down with your fingers to keep it nice and even, and double check every few inches that you're lined up well. Now, when we get to this first corner, move some of that fabric so that it's listening to you and behaving, and ease it into that corner. This is where that awl might come in handy for you, because it can get in places where you may not want to put your fingers that close to the needle. Okay, hold it down. Straighten out as much as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's all going to be fine. You will be surprised at how forgiving this step is once you do it. Okay, make that turn. Try and get all those raw edges back lined up against your edge here. Keep sewing 1/4 inch. Go along this straightaway here. Take your time. We're going to do another curve, so we're going to ease into that curve. I'm going to put my awl down, which holds my fabric down for me. It gets in places where I can't go. I can't put my finger under that presser foot, nor do I want to, because I don't want to go to the emergency room today. I've got a lot going on. I don't have time for that. So we're just going to make this curve. Keep watching that 1/4 inch seam allowance as best you can. Oh, I'm so proud of you. Keep going. Flatten it all out. Okay, I'm matching it up with my original stitches now. Overlap just a little bit and back stitch. All right, here's what it should look like. Look how cute that looks. You're doing it. You're doing great. I'm going to call this the scariest part of the project, but it's not so bad if you just take your time. So what we need to do is get this binding to go all the way around this little rectangle here, and then we're going to fold it over. So we're going to stitch this twice. The first time we stitch it, we're going to lay this down just like we did before. Put your raw edge of your binding facing the raw edge of your bag, and on a straightaway, we're going to fold this down. Start about 2 inches down from the top of your binding piece. And at 1/4 of an inch again, we're going to just line this up, start with a back stitch, and then start sewing. Now this should go a little easier than you're attaching these pieces because you have control of this now. I wouldn't pin this or clip it to get it set. You are going to be finagling this the whole way around. So when you have a nice long edge like this, take some deep breaths, because when you get to a corner like this, you're going to want to maybe hold your breath. So we're going to just run this as far out as we can. Oops, I got off track here. It's okay, just lift and move over. We're going to run this all the way out to about 1/4 inch from the corner edge here. And we're going to start to make this turn. So to do that, I'm going to just very slowly stitch a few stitches, turn my work a little bit, just minuscule little turns, okay? Teeny tiny turns until you make through that corner. And then keep going. See, this isn't so bad. You're just, finagling. You're having to really boss the fabric around on this step. So we can't have noodle hands for this. We have to have strong, sure hands. So make sure that you woke up with your strong, sure hands today and not your noodle hands. If you woke up with your noodle hands, you're going to need to go back to bed and reset. Because it's never going to work. Ease into your corner again. Move this stuff out of the way and flatten it out as best you can. A lot of sewists hate this kind of binding. I have made peace with it. It's sort of a trade-off, right? You're either going to have to make a bag with a lining, or you can attach it like this where it's all connected, but then you have to find a way to cover up those raw edges somehow. So it's definitely a give and take. You'll get good at one, and then you'll feel like you're ready for a new challenge, and you'll start working on this kind of binding, and you'll realize that it wasn't as scary as you thought it was. And might I reiterate, once again, it never has to be perfect for it to be beautiful. So just do your very best. Okay, we're coming around the bend here, almost there. And this is why it's important that you start on a straightaway, because we do have to connect these here in just a second. You don't want to do that on a curve. It'll be really hard. All right. Now, there's a couple ways you can bind this together and make this crisscross make sense. The way that I'm going to show you today is we're going to snip going perpendicular to your raw edge, and we're going to pull it back and fold it down just a little bit so that you're covering up that raw edge on the end here. That's why we left that 2 inches. We need some space to be able to do this. Okay, make it as even as you can, and then take your other piece here and we're going to cut it so that it's just a little bit shorter than where your stitches start. And we're going to tuck this in. Okay, just do your best. Slowly work around that corner now, holding on to those overlapping pieces because they can come out real easily. Okay, see how they're nice and lined up well? If they're getting out of control, lift your presser foot and straighten it out. Whew, we did it. I think I was holding my breath there for a while. Oops, okay, cut your thread. Now, you've got this bound on one side. So now all we have to do, and you can do this 2 ways. You can do this on your machine if you want, or you could wait till the end and you could hand stitch this, or you can do it now. It's totally up to you. We're going to wrap this around the other side of your bag edge now. Okay, it should flip up pretty easily and over. Okay, and if you find a spot that's really thick, specifically where those handles are, you can trim a good portion of that out of there and it should flip much easier for you. So if you find that, or even in your corners, if you took some liberties with your stitching and got a little off course, just trim it up. Just make sure you're not cutting into your binding, because then you'll have to redo it. And that we don't want to have to redo any steps on this if we don't have to. Okay. So I've got another kind of bulky area here. Trim that up around the corner just a little bit. Okay, and you can see it's wrapping over a lot easier now. We've got this one last corner that we're gonna trim up. Okay, and I'm gonna just sew this with my machine. It's the inside of a bag. It's not that serious. So to do that, I'm gonna fold this down and I'm gonna start working my way around, starting on a straightaway. And I'm gonna sew it about 1/16 of an inch away from my edge. Now, when you're doing this, make sure that you have nothing going under your needle except the actual binding part. So you're gonna wanna check it every few inches and sort of move it out of the way. And we're just gonna work into those corners the same way we did before, slowly and with purpose. And like I said, if you want this to be unbelievably hidden and accurate, you can hand stitch it, just like you would a quilt binding. Either way is totally fine. Okay, it should sort of ease itself into that curve because you did this with the bias binding. Bias meaning across the diagonal where you have some give and some stretch for curves. Straight away. You're my favorite. Are we having fun yet? These colors are speaking to me. We are going to the beach soon, and I think this might make a great little cosmetic bag or a gift. I have someone in mind who I think would love this color combination, so I guess I'll probably give it to them. I can make another one for me. I can't stress enough how important it is on this step to be the boss of the fabric. You won't make it if you're not. You got to tell it where you want it to go. You did it. We did it. I'm so proud of us. All right, double check now that you hit all of your sides and that everything is concealed by your binding. So good. And now guess what? We get to do that whole process again on this side. So we are going to find, maybe get a drink or a snack before you tackle this other side. It's not any harder. It's just a little more awkward because you're already sewn up on the one side. So mark your center points again, and you should still already have them marked on this side. Make sure that your right side is facing up towards the zipper. Connect them together just like we did before. It might help for you to go ahead and just open that zipper so that you don't have to mess with it later, because we might need to stick our hand in there while we're sewing. Now we're going to lay this piece down and sew from that side. Who's the boss of the fabric? You are. Okay, lay it under, and it might help even to take this off at this point. It'll help you get in there a little closer. 1/4 inch. Start on a straightaway and just start sewing. Okay, we're approaching a corner, so we're going to work our fabric all the way out to the corner. To go around your curve, just keep overlapping those edges there. We're getting there. You're doing great. I feel like I'm coaching someone through birth. Like, you can do this. Not much longer. I think this is like one of those things that's something you have to do with practice, but by making sure that you're pushing your bag piece, your side panel piece with the zipper on it, all the way out to the edge of those front and back panel pieces, that's what's going to help keep things even as you get from corner to corner, and it'll leave you without a whole lot of bunching at the end. You have to push it into the corner. It's meant to go all the way to the edge. Otherwise, you'll end up with extra fabric when you get to the end of your seam, and that makes it kind of a bummer. So definitely take your time and work those pieces all the way to the edge. All right, we've met back up with our stitches. We're going to back stitch. Okay, and now we're going to attach that binding again. So find your long edge, and if you want to go ahead and just fold this over ahead of time, I mean, why not? You can clip it in place, but just don't start sewing there. So like clip it, but we're going to start sewing down here, if that makes sense. So we've got to leave that space open for the overlap. Okay, so smush everything back down, go down to your about 2 inches from the top, and at your 1/4 inch mark, we're going to start sewing this binding on. Now listen, if you are comfortable using a walking foot, that might be easier for you on this project. You might enjoy that. Now on this one, I actually flipped this piece upside down. It probably is not the preferred method, but hey, better me trying it than you. Let's see if it makes a difference. It is a little harder because it's more bumpy to push through the machine, but other than that, I don't think it should make too much of a difference. Okay, I'm coming around. I've got that piece folded down already, so I'm going to trim just shy of my stitch line. Add this in. Get everything flat. Also, lesson learned, make sure this is down. This way around was terrible. 10 out of 10. Don't recommend doing it flipped. So see, aren't you glad I made that mistake and you don't have to? But we made it. All right, now fold it over, and you may have some places that you need to trim, and that's okay. Go ahead and do that now. Just don't cut through your binding. That's good. We're going to get rid of some of this bulk here. And here. And here. I'm making a mess today. All right, now fold it around and see how everything fits together. If you have nice coverage going all the way around, then you're okay to go ahead and stitch. Looking good to me. All right, so we're going to start on a long edge, and this is our last stitch, you guys. You're almost there. As close to the edge as you feel comfortable, and just hold it down. You may have to push your fabric through just a little bit. Try not to do it too much because that's what your feed dogs are for, but just to get things moving through. And we're stopping every few inches to realign. Oh, I'm getting so excited about this. Like I said, these make great gifts because people look at it and they're like, you made this? Of all the bags, this one really just packs a punch. It looks so much more difficult than it really is to make. Okay, we're bossing that fabric around. The nice thing about the box, the ambassador box too, is not only did you get extra goodies, you got the needle pack and the embroidery scissors, which you can keep using, and the thread, because you're not going to use nearly, I don't know, probably even an eighth of, maybe a quarter of that spool of thread at the most. Anyway, what's great is you have enough soft and stable left over for at least one other bag of this size. You have plenty of SF101 left over. All you would need to do is get a zipper and 3 fat quarters, and you could make a whole other bag to go along with this one. So it really is a great value for what you're getting in the box. And I think it just takes the stress out of having to try and like pattern match and gather all the supplies. I like that it can just be all in the box delivered to my door. And I am more inclined to do a project like that if I have it sitting waiting for me and I know I don't have to do any gathering or shopping. That to me is worth its weight in gold. I'm a busy mom. I've got a business. I'm, working on stuff all the time. And sometimes I only have an hour or two to come up here and sew. And I don't want to spend all of that time trying to dig through my stash to find all the materials that I'll need to create a project. So these ambassador boxes are great. It's not just this project too. There's plenty of them on the website at Sewing Parts Online. The jelly roll rug has been extremely successful. So many of you have purchased that box. The Mondo bag box. We've got a quilt box that may be out by the time this tutorial posts. It's so much fun to check those out. And it makes a great gift. So if you know somebody who's crafty, wouldn't that make a wonderful present to give them? So close. Used to work in a restaurant in college, and one of the cooks in the back would just all night yell out, "Almost over, guys! It's almost over!" Even when we first got there for our shift, he'd be like, "Almost over, guys!" And we'd all laugh, be like, "No, it's not." It's true, though. We're almost there. last stitch. I'm covered in thread. Okay, friends. Moment of truth. Let's clear all this junk out of here. Have you been sewing today? No. Why ever would you think that? All right. Trim up any of our little threads that are hanging around. And just eyeball this. This is what it should look like now. I mean, how cute is that from the inside? All right, you ready? Let's turn it right side out and see how she looks. Now be careful because you've got those pins still in there, so you don't want to stick your finger. So as you flip it out, pull those pins out, get them out of the way. And you're going to work your fingers down into all those corners. They should be nice and round, which is so pretty. This is so cute. Oh my gosh. Okay, flatten it out. Zip her up. Yes. It's your Easy Does It bag. Look at that. Look how cute this turned out, you guys. It's got handles. This would also be great if you wanted to make it like, I think the dudes always kind of get forgotten in a lot of our sewing projects. And you could make this for your son or your husband for Father's Day or for Christmas or a birthday. Do it in like colors they like or a sports team that they are into. I mean, there's so many options. And it's a big bag, you guys. You have lots of room to play with in here. So we did it. We made the Easy Does It boxy bag. What do you think of how this turned out? Is this something that you want to try? Because I think you can do it too. Now listen, if you made this with me today, I'm going to need you to let me know in the comments, and I want to see pictures of your work because I am already super proud of you. Again, this is the Easy Does It bag by ByAnnie. I'm Chelsea with She Sews Seams. Make sure to subscribe to my channel to stay up to date on all of my upcoming tutorials. This is the kind of stuff I like to show you guys. I love sharing these types of projects with you guys because they're beginner friendly, they're approachable, and I am right there with you holding your hand the whole time, reassuring you that you can do this because I know you can do this. Again, I'm Chelsea with She Sews Seams. Happy sewing, everyone.